Joining us now to talk about the future of the party, Governor Bobby Jindal of Louisiana, the new chair of the Republican Governors Association, who's in his state capital of Baton Rouge. And from San Diego, Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker, the new vice chair of the RGA. Gentlemen, this week, Mitt Romney, in a conference call with big donors, attributed his defeat to President Obama giving out gifts to minorities and young people. Governor Jindal, you reacted very sharply to that. Let's take a look.
What the president's campaign did was focus on certain members of his base coalition, give them extraordinary financial gifts from the government.
Absolutely reject that notion, that description. We've got to stop being the stupid party. I mean, what do I mean by that? Certainly we need to stop making stupid comments.
So, Governor, what was stupid about what Romney said?
Well, two things. First, Governor Romney is an honorable and exceptional man. I'm proud to have campaigned for him across this country, but I absolutely reject what he said. Look, we as a Republican Party have to campaign for every single vote. If we want people to like us, we have to like them first. And you don't start to like people by insulting them by saying their votes were bought. We're an aspirational party. Let the Democratic Party be the party that says demography is destiny, that says we're going to divide people by race, by gender, by class. We as a Republican Party believe our conservative principles are good for every single voter. It's not just a marketing campaign. It's not just hiring better PR folks. We're going to go and convince and fight for every single vote, showing them that we're the party for the middle class, upward mobility. We don't start winning majorities and winning elections by insulting our voters.
But Governor Walker, I want you to take a look at this exit poll from election night. Who is more in touch with people like you? 53% said Obama, 43% said Mitt Romney. Question, how do Republicans convince the middle class that you're looking out for them?
Well, I think you see it in the governorships. We now, in a nation that went for a Democrat for president, you now have 30 states that have Republican governors, I think because there's a trust factor there. I share the same belief that Bobby mentioned as well, that we need to be a party that doesn't just talk about it. We go out and actively take the message, I think a winning message, one that we won on in each of these states I mentioned where they're Republican governors, but we take it and we go out to where people are. We've got a message that works for young people, that works for people who've come to our country from other countries. Basically for anyone who wants to live their piece of the American dream, we have to show that we're serious about reaching out and helping everyone, not just a group here, not just a group there, but everyone in this country live their piece of the American dream. I think that starts with our governors as great messengers.
But Governor Jindal, what about the debate that is going on here in Washington right now about the fiscal cliff? President Obama says, look, let's extend the Bush tax cuts, the lower tax rates, for 98% of all taxpayers, including the middle class, right now. I'll sign it today. He took out his pen at the news conference. And the Republicans saying, no, we can't do that until we decide what we're going to do with the top 2% of taxpayers. Why wouldn't a middle class voter look at that and say, these guys, the GOP, are all about protecting the rich?
Chris, two things. One, we as a Republican Party need to make it very clear, and we're going to make it very clear, we're not the party of big businesses, big banks, big Wall Street, big bailouts. When it comes to the tax code, we as the Republican Party have to make it very clear we're for a lower, flatter, simpler tax code. You can maintain progressivity. For example, there have been ideas to limit deductions for the wealthy. There have been ideas to get rid of some of these carve-outs. Well, we need to make it very clear we're not the party trying to protect the rich. They can protect themselves. We're the party that wants growth, pro-growth policies. Let the Democratic Party be the party of growing government, growing revenues. We want to grow the private sector economy, and so that starts with lower, flatter, simpler tax code. And again, it can still be progressive. There are ideas to get rid of these carve-outs, special treatments, to limit the deductions for the wealthy. But here's the second point. When it comes to this fiscal cliff, I was in Congress. I guarantee if they just put a Band-Aid on this, we'll be at another fiscal cliff in a few months from now. We need structural changes, and that could be a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, a supermajority before they raise our taxes, a limit on the growth in government spending so it can't grow faster than the economy or population growth, limiting government spending as a percentage of GDP. Without those structural changes, we're not getting anywhere. This is just kicking the can down the road. And let's also be clear, this country doesn't need two liberal or Democratic parties. Yes, we need to show that our policies are appealing and work for the middle class, but we don't need to abandon our principles. This country doesn't need two Democratic parties.
But Governor Walker, I mean, look at the optics of it when the president is holding up his pen and saying, I'll sign extending tax cuts, lower taxes, which is supposedly a Republican mantra for 98% of Americans, and the Republicans are saying not so fast. Bill Kristol was on this show last week, and he said, you know, it wouldn't kill the Republicans to raise taxes on millionaires a little bit. Is he wrong?
Well, I think you look at the contrast between Washington and what's happening in each of our state houses. The vast majority of us who were new governors 2 years ago inherited major budget deficits in our states. We balanced those deficits without raising taxes. In fact, in states like Wisconsin, we actually cut taxes over the past 2 years, and revenues have gone up. I think most Americans, not just those in politics, most Americans look at what's happening in Washington and think they're missing the boat. The economy is a much bigger issue. Don't get me wrong. I think they need to balance the budget. I think they need to take care of these fiscal issues. But more importantly, we need to get the economy going. We need to get people back to work, and that disproportionately affects the middle class right now. And the fact that they're talking about anything that might make it worse in the economy, I think is a bad sign about what's happening in Washington.
Let's talk briefly, and I run into a time crunch here in a minute, so I'm going to ask you for quick answers on a couple of specific groups. The problems that your party had on Election Day with Hispanics has been well documented. 71% voted for Obama, 27% for Romney. Governor Walker, does your party need to rethink where it stands on the DREAM Act and the whole issue of the 11 million illegals who are currently in this country?
Well, I think we need to find a way to move forward in this. I think we want more people who want to live the American dream. I mean, this country is based on immigrants. We've got to find a way to welcome all of our immigrants in, all those who want to live that piece of the American dream. And I think when we do, before I was governor, I was the Milwaukee County executive, and historically I won nearly every Hispanic-leaning ward in Milwaukee County where I was the county executive. Why? Because I had a message that resonated with everyone. I had help with small business owners. I had help with school choice with parents who wanted their kids to prevail and get the opportunity they deserve. Those are things we need to be talking about. If we share that message with all the voters, we're going to do better, whether it's with Hispanic voters, whether it's young voters, whether it's any other voters out there. We'll do well because we've got a message of prosperity and freedom for all.
And Governor Jindal, let's take a look at unmarried women who backed Obama by a wide margin. Unmarried women voted for Obama by a margin of 67% to 31%. Governor, you say to Republicans, don't change your principles, modernize, don't moderate. But you got to know that during this campaign, the Democrats hammered your party when it came to freedom of choice on abortion, when it came to access to birth control, when it came to funding of Planned Parenthood. How do you convince unmarried women that you're looking out for them?
Well, Chris, a couple of things. One, I think we can still be true to our principles. You know, I'm pro-life. I follow the teachings of my church and my faith. But at the same time, I think we can be respectful of those that disagree with us. We don't need to demonize those that disagree with us. We need to respect the fact that others have come to different conclusions based on their own sincerely held beliefs and have a civil debate. We don't need to demonize and we also don't need to be saying stupid things. Look, we had candidates in Indiana and Missouri that said offensive things that not only hurt themselves and lost us 2 Senate seats, but also hurt the Republican Party across the board. So I think we can be true to our principles. We don't need to pander or change our principles, but at the same time, we can be respectful. You mentioned something. Look, when a majority of voters in this election think the Democratic Party is more likely to cut taxes for the middle class than the Republican Party, that shows that we've got a problem not only with single women and middle-class voters, but voters across the country. That means we've got a serious problem about making sure that voters understand what we as a party stand for, the principles we're pursuing, and that once we get back on track showing we are the party fighting for the middle class, that helps us with female voters, Hispanic voters, and every voter out there.
And finally, Governor Walker, we got less than a minute left. Both of you have decided not to set up state health care exchanges under Obamacare, but rather to let the feds come in and do it. I guess the question I have is, would you agree that at this point, with the president reelected, Obamacare is here to stay?
Well, it is the law, and we made that clear. The difference is what we pointed out in our states, and I think Bobby feels the same in his, and other governors, including some Democrats, feel like of the options we're given to comply with the law, state-run partnership or defer to the federal government, the state-run option is really state in name only. It still provides all the same stipulations. In fact, Utah, a state that has an exchange, can't even go ahead and use their exchange to qualify for the federal program. So in the end, if it's state in name only, we'd rather have the federal government do it. As much as it pains us believing in federalism, in the end, it's better they do it and not incur the additional potential cost to our taxpayers that a state-run exchange would expose us to.
Governor Walker, Governor Jindal, we're going to have to leave it there. There's obviously a lot more to talk about. We'll have you back to do it, and we'll be tracking where the two of you try to take the party in the coming months. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you, Chris.